Welcome to the last full week of the summer. I know for many it's been a real intense summer, and I thought this week, instead of doing a traditional lecture, that it would be helpful to just do a review of everything we learned this semester as you're putting your finishing touches on your ePortfolio. Just kind of reviewing will be helpful. So we started with defining educational technology. We did it in a discussion board and kind of provided a working definition of what that meant. Then we were able to tease out two examples, or each one of you were able to tease out two different examples of educational technology terms that are relevant to today's technology and different ways educational technology is integrated into the classroom. So we learned a lot of cool terms with respect to educational technology in our wiki. And then we had a review of the history of computers, and many of you thought this was a disconnect. And my main purpose of integrating that early on in the semester is a way for us to be okay with not knowing all things about educational technology. Many of us are familiar with computers, but we're very shocked that none of us got a perfect score on the history of computers, something that we use every day. And it's just a way to say it's okay that we don't know everything about technology. But the educational technology journals are a way for you to really hone in on those areas of educational technology that are more relevant to you with respect to content, or the different types of tools that are more applicable for you and your students. Next, we talked about integrating the internet into the classroom, and we were reacquainted with the World Wide Web via our text and the different readings we had for that. And we also learned how to select, evaluate, and integrate different types of websites into our curriculum. And one of the activities that you had for that week was to create a directed browsing activity. TrackStar was the software that was highlighted, but not all of you were able to use TrackStar. It was, for whatever reason, all the stars aligned that TrackStar was acting problematic, which is the first time in the 10 years I've used TrackStar that it was down, which would provide another learning opportunity for us to explore different types of ways or different types of software that we could use to do a directed browsing activity, and also allowed us, through the evaluation, a way to kind of really think about the different resources we're providing for our students, and are they credible, and are they the best actual resources that we should use. Then we went to the intellectual property and ethics, and our text provided some good resources on the social, ethical, and legal and human issues as they relate to educational technology. And then we applied what we learned from my lecture and from the text to help us create some type of cartoon or comic type of video on intellectual property. You chose a particular issue and use that to help teach your students about intellectual property, and you created a short little lesson that went along with that, and how you integrated the video into that particular lesson. And I know many of you had some concerns that this didn't necessarily fall under the umbrella of your essential question, and that's fine. It's fine that this is an indirect correlation to your essential question, because knowing about ethics and intellectual property are essential for all students. And so I don't want you to go back and create a new video that's more applicable in your mind for your essential question. Whatever you created for this assignment is fine as is. Next, we talked about integrating computer applications, and we focused on word processing and spreadsheets first, and this is where you define your actual essential question. And then we learned about effective practices of doing so, and we were first introduced to the Assure model, which you use for this lesson and lessons moving forward to provide the framework for effective technology integration, and also introduced integrated the NETS teacher and student standards along with the Tennessee curriculum standards into our respective lessons. Then we went on to integrating presentation software and desktop publishing, and the lessons really did focus on Microsoft Office, but I knew not all of you had access to Microsoft Office, so I allowed you the freedom to use software like OpenOffice or the tools provided within Google Docs to create your lessons, be it Word, Excel, PowerPoint, the different presentation softwares that they had. And we also learned how to develop, from our textbook, develop and plan technology-rich instructions, as well as effective strategies for integrating technology into the content area. And this was best highlighted in our Prezi discussion or in-class activity, as well as the publication portion of it, where you created some type of flyer or newsletter to go along with your lesson. And then for the actual presentation software portion of it, you created a narrated lecture using iSprings, which were all very, very, very good. And then we created a PowerPoint game that would serve as a supplemental resource for our students, just a different way to engage our students and to cover some content. I wanted to kind of highlight the midterm evaluation and the group assignment as a separate entity, where the learning objective here allowed us to communicate and collaborate. We used either Skype, Google Talk. Some of you who needed some more technology help, we used Join Me, so I could actually see your desktop and kind of help you troubleshoot. And then for your group assignment, some of you used all of the technology above, in addition to the tools provided in Blackboard, to help you create your lesson. And that group assignment was a way for you to demonstrate your leadership in using technology to help others learn. We went on to the hardware and software integration, where we selected both software and hardware that would be helpful for our students. And for the software, you evaluated, I believe it was 5 or 6 different types of software that would help support your essential question, and then use your best software for a future assignment. And then also I wanted to highlight the reflective journals, where you did your learning strategies and your professional development. And from these 2 particular journals, that may help you with defining what your professional profile or your teaching strategy that you have to develop. So you may want to kind of look in here to see what you wrote in these reflective journals to help you best articulate what your abbreviated philosophy on teaching is. Next, we learned about universal design for learning, and we also learned from our text about emerging assistive technologies, which also supports the UDL framework. And from our lecture and application of the knowledge, we were able to apply the principles in a virtual classroom. And then for your assignment, you created a UDL lesson plan, and we integrated graphic organizers, which are one of the things that are highlighted as a best practice for UDL. And feel free to add this lesson along with to mirror the original lesson that you used to modify it for this UDL. You can upload this into your ePortfolio as well. Next, we did online learning and instructional design. We had guest lectures from the Dean of Continuing Learning, as well as the Senior Instructional Developer. And we developed an online course using course sites. Know that this course is yours. You can remove me as a student and use it for other practices for either your future or your current students, or for organization, or whatever means that you want to use your particular site. Feel free to use it after this course if it's something that's of interest to you. And then you also evaluated this course for best practices of instructional design of an online course, and you've identified some opportunity areas. And the biggest theme with the opportunity areas was the lack of examples for assignments. And I believe for most of you, I kind of commented back that I do have a philosophical issue at times with providing examples, because what I found in the past is I'll get several iterations of that particular example, and that's not what I want. I want you to customize it based on your content area, your essential question. So sometimes providing a template or an example does stifle creativity, but I will, moving forward, make sure that within the instructions they're a little bit more explicit, and within them I could provide some examples versus just giving students an example for them to use as a template or a model, because I don't want carbon copies or slight modifications of an assignment. This is the first group assignment on classroom management techniques, where we learned how to manage a classroom lab, and you were able to use your Prezi skills again to create the do's and don'ts for classroom expectations in a computer lab. And then we also were able to develop strategies for the different types of classrooms that you all will have or have with respect to access to computers, be it one computer in the classroom, two, or having availability of a whole lab, and what are the different strategies you would use for those different types of settings. The next group assignment was mobile learning and educational apps, and we discussed the strengths and the challenges, and also the fact that many of our students, or some of our students, don't have access to smartphones and tablets. So although mobile learning is the new trend, the lack of availability to these tools also is a limitation. And the assignment that you had to do, in addition to the discussion, was to evaluate some apps. And I put the stipulation of free, and many of you said you get what you pay for with free, because it really did limit the amount of apps that you had to evaluate. But you all were able to evaluate at least 3 apps, and were able to find some that were, if not remotely applicable to your content area. The last group was on data and using data to inform teaching and learning, and as you know, this is what teaching is now really about, is using the data, and schools are being held by or evaluated by the data, teachers are, and so are students. So this group did a great job of looking at the different ways you can use data for readiness, collection, analysis, and more importantly, how to use it to enhance teaching and learning. And the student tutorial is what you're doing this week, where you're going to choose one of the softwares that you evaluated, one that most supports your essential question, or one that you think is the most applicable or most relevant. And you're going to provide a tutorial using screen capture software, as well as a PDF tutorial that will walk the students through how to use that software. And for your ePortfolio, just create a very basic lesson. Students will use XYZ software to learn X, Y, and Z. You can keep it very simple. You don't have to go through the full Assure model. It could be just a one-page lesson plan on how you're actually going to integrate this software into the curriculum. And you may want to mention also how it ties into or supports your essential question. And lastly is our ePortfolio, which really is just going to synthesize everything that you did, all the major assignments that you created this semester, as well as a reflection on each one of those elements. So that's one of the main pieces of it, is the synthesis and the reflections, as well as your reflections on the different research that you evaluated this semester with respect to the journal article reviews, and then also your professional profile. It's stated that you're going to do a podcast or an audio recording of your teaching philosophy, and with Audacity, feel free to use whichever. You can export your audio file in whichever format works best for you, because you're going to upload that and just add it as a file. You don't have to use insert and find whatever tool is applicable. Just go ahead and add it as a file, and I can access it that way. And the one element that is completely new that will support your essential question is your web quest. And with that web quest, there are some criteria to make a basic web quest, but I also want you to really look at the collaboration tools that I provided with respect to the Intel software links, because with WebQuest, you're designing something for groups to collaborate, for students to work in small groups. So with that, I wanted to make sure that you created the best practices for doing that. And that's what that Intel resource is provided for, to make sure you really hit those highlights, to make sure your students are going to have the best opportunity to collaborate effectively to reach the main objective of your particular lesson. Hopefully you found this review helpful and are amazed at all of the things that we've learned this semester, and you will be able to use these resources in the future to enhance your own teaching and learning, and your students will be more engaged with the new tools that you are able to implement moving forward. I really enjoyed working with all of you, and I wish you the best in the upcoming school year, or for those of you who aren't teaching, I just wish you the best as well.